So to offer that blood to our mother, that holy altar of life, and to open that portal and direct it, oftentimes I think, or at least for me, maybe it was because of my early days in the church, everything spiritual was up, out there. You're calling out there, but it's such a powerful thing to realize, to pray down and in, to open and especially to open that gateway consciously and direct it towards this Mother Earth. So my experience is that if I spend any time at all in that state and consciously connect with this Mother Earth and say, I am here, I am in this state, I am making this offering to you, either literally or energetically, and I'm open myself to receive your nurturing, your nourishment, but also your guidance and your instruction. Something so powerful happens there. In so many ways. I mean, the nurturing and the nourishment that comes through from consciously making that connection is astounding. And I will say that, the things that I've been shown in that state. So we say that anytime a human being is spilling blood, they're close to the spirit world. And so in this case, this is the spilling of blood that isn't about injury or death. It's life-affirming blood. And it's one of the only instances in a human being where that occurs, life-affirming bloodshed. And so, in that state, it's a very liminal space. And we can really receive guidance in a pretty with ease. I've worked with women of all races and all different places on the earth. And if we create that space and I set them in and I sing some songs to them and I tell them what is possible, it never fails. It is absolutely foolproof. What happens with these women and where the journey they take and the discovery they make about themselves and their own capacity to commune. It's extraordinary. And so then I also have to think, so what is it with the fact that when we all live together, we all start cycling the same? I mean, that's a huge clue, isn't it? About us, about our thriving life way. So there's also something about being in community and doing this together. And then also, if you think about tribal life, where this same group of people was living together, and I would say we all descend from tribal community. What happened to that community if all the women on their moon time were in their own ceremony? They were kind of removed from the rest of community to do their own ceremony. That would shift the consciousness of what the woman does, for one thing, because all of a sudden she wouldn't be doing it. She'd be doing something else. But it would really focus on the role of woman in so many different ways. So I was told that at one time when the women had moon lodges, that they would sleep in a teepee, and they would all sleep with their heads to the center, and they would have communal dreams. And those communal dreams would guide and direct their own lives, but also the people. Sometimes they would dream new ceremonies. Sometimes they would dream about people arriving from afar. Sometimes they would dream about, where are the buffalo? Practical matters. And so I've had the incredible opportunity to be in Moon Lodge and ceremony with, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 women at a time. And the synchronicity, the way that we begin to move, not only just bleeding at the same time, but waking and sleeping at the same time, getting sick to our stomach at the same time. We become a single organism, almost a dreaming single organism, making offering to this Mother Earth. So I feel that I want to speak these things out loud, even though I'm a little squeamish about sharing such sacred knowledge in this medium. And but I also just feel like, if not now, when, when and how can this be shared? So I will say that, I think, well, for myself, I've been saying, I've had it with genius and brilliant ideas from human beings, because we're just too embedded in this agreement, and we've been embedded in it for so many generations, this agreement with reality, even though we could make it anything we want. We've been placed in paradise. We make this crazy agreement. I say, of all the options, why is it white supremacy and credit scores? Why is that the way to go to be a human being on the planet? That was a quote from some meme I saw. I thought, exactly, that's my point. So so where do we go then for our new, or maybe it's going to be so old it appears new, pathway ahead? I have an elder, and he says we're preparing for a future to arrive, and he says, actually that future is already here. It's all around us. So what we're actually trying to work on is opening up our ability to perceive it. Right now, we don't have the tools in our consciousness, in our beliefs, what we believe is possible, what we believe is impossible, who we believe we are, to be able to perceive it. So he says we're in the process of learning the grammar of the future. I like that. And so I feel like we could really, really use some direct instruction from this Mother Earth. We're not on Mars, we're not on Jupiter, we're not disembodied spirit. Here we are living in this physical experience of being holy earth surface walker. So what is that? And I can't think of a better one to go to and ask than this Mother Earth. And I want to say that what I learned is that my biology gives me this unbelievable spiritual capacity to have direct conversation, communion, teaching, guidance from this Mother Earth. I think that it would be a life well spent if I were to only spend my time working with this. And for a while, it was a huge part of my work everywhere, all the time. And I've been thinking lately that it may be time to go back.
And so I want to, talk here about the big difference between anger and aggression. And notice how this is very different from a domination anger. This is not power over. That's aggression. Aggression is violent, offensive. Anger is a response, an authentic and spontaneous emotion. And in women in particular, it's been shown that assertiveness, aggression, and anger are often considered one and the same, and they are not. And yeah, there's many painful consequences that one can feel from suppressing anger, from the most subtle to the most obvious. We can even lose our ability to recognize anger and to use it as a compass in our life, a compass for change. Anger can deeply affect our health, our physical health, no longer just talking emotional, mental, but it's now been implicated and linked to a whole array of what was considered women's illnesses, and specifically common to like women of marginalized communities, Black, Brown, Indigenous, queer women. And some of these include, autoimmune disorders like lupus and cardiovascular disorders. It's so interesting to feel into how it's not the anger that's making us sick, it's the tapping of it, the holding it in. And so what instead, now we're going to switch and again, take a deep breath, because as I'm talking about this, obviously it's like, I can feel it because we're tuning into this. It can be like a very, like how when one tries to hold a ball underwater is not as, as intense as the energy, I think, but it's like trying to condense and compact something that all of its energy is asking to flow. And it's a very physical quality, anger. And so the heresy that I'm going to speak right now is, what if feminine anger is a portal home to ourselves and to a more soulful society? What if anger in its essence is not singularly destructive, but like wildfire, a necessary and regenerative force of nature in disguise? And in this, I'm just, I'm going to tell you some key research about how anger, like angry people, are like happy people, more optimistic. They take more risks. They feel that change is possible and that they can influence outcomes. Sad and fearful people tend toward pessimism, a powerlessness to make change, and deep depression. And I don't necessarily say that saying that depression is a bad thing. I think in and of itself is also an agent of change. And I love the phrase that's now, circulating the world, that depression is deep rest. Deep rest is needed for regeneration of something new to be born. But it is important to notice that in the state of this, especially because we're in a class about women in power. So, power is considered by some theorists to be the entrance requirement for one to even allow anger. But it's not necessary for sadness. Anger is, an approach emotion, while sadness is a retreat emotion. And studies show that people who are able to process their anger and make meaning from it are more creative, have more intimacy, and are better problem solvers. I love this image showing us in today's world. Often there is this, this split, this idea that some emotions are worthy to be only in, and there's some things I've changed about this. For example, I think love is a very all-encompassing emotion, but we think of it only in only in a very like sweet way. And love can have many flavors. To be rooted in love can look in very surprising ways, but it can still be present when one is expressing something from a place of deep anger. No, I will not let you treat me this way. And I'm not just doing that for me, I'm doing that for you. I know this is not who you are. No. Which brings me to, an important, a very important and incredible movement that we're witnessing today, which is the audacity of young women in particular who are leading this movement. God bless the audacity of young girls who are standing up to an entire regime of one of the strongest, most extreme forms of domination on our planet. And it's just a mirror, a very obvious form of oppression, but it exists. It exists elsewhere. And where any woman is shackled, all women are shackled, even if her shackles look different than my own. You may know that quote. So, what does it mean for women to disassociate anger from femininity? And then look at what it looks like when women own anger, when they own righteous rage. So I want to bring some practices into this, and we're not going to be able to do. I wanted to give you context because obviously this is a deeper work. But if you want to move anger, know that it's a very physical emotion. I deeply recommend breath work with the intention to just feel if there is anger in your body, personal or collective, and through breath work. Circular breathing helps a lot because it allows, and 12 minutes is like the minimum time really to reach these places of altered states of awareness, to allow, and in ceremony, obviously, if you have the joy and pleasure to sit in Indigenous ceremony, that Indigenous people of the world have known about the importance of creating sacred space to move grief, to move, anger, to bring things into right relationship. But since we don't all have that available, and we certainly don't have that on the collective, we can take the agency and create that in our own space in small ways. So, as close to the incident as possible, move anger through your body. And if you are, if you have lived, you most likely have something at some point that may sit unresolved in your being. And to bring that forward, I deeply recommend breathwork. I would like to close by saying that though I'm speaking about anger here and know what I'm actually speaking about is love, especially if we're coming from non-binary thinking, which is a way a lot of Indigenous people can hold this seeming opposites, but actually a woven form of dual and non-dualism. And so, the only real way to come to combat this energy in the world is to fall so in love with our yes so strongly and vividly that you strengthen enough to say no. So you empower yourself enough to say no, so you become solid enough and practiced and well versed, and rest in yourself enough to calmly say, I will be treated sacredly. No, this is not the way. If you want to do that, over there. Sometimes it's going to look like a hurricane, and that's important and it's okay. Sometimes it will be a rooted tree. And there's an importance of the moments and places where we can take our armor off, which is what this is about, reclaiming sisterhood. To know that any jealousy we feel for another woman can be reframed to our inspiration and what we admire about her. Again, I'll share all of these so you can see them. And with that, I'm gonna just close with the ending of Kali and Sekhmet, which is that Kali doesn't know how to stop after she has won from the demon. And the gods call Shiva to come. And Shiva tries many things. He tries to sing to her, tries to dance to her, and nothing. She is raging and she's destroying now the beyond the demon, the rest of the world. Her rage doesn't have its off button. And Shiva lays himself at her feet. And Kali is about to kill him. And he looks at her and he penetrates her with his gaze of pure love. Thank you. I see you. I know you. If you gotta kill me. I understand why this is moving through you. Pure love. And that caused the clouds to raise, and she was able to come into rest mode and only bring the rage when it's necessary. In the Sekhmet version of the story, she's given like a drink from the river, like a milky drink that intoxicates her, and she becomes instead like a slinky cat, which is another goddess. So thank you. In anger, I have loved more lovefully, sensitively, bested, fully, freely, intentionally. And if you are in need of permission, let me be the one to give you the permission you don't need, to change what is needed, to be truthful, to access rage, to be crazy, to be disliked, to not betray yourself, so that when you smile, it is for real.